Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 everyone. We are so excited to have Christina Littrell-Williams with us today. Christina was one of our first speakers 3 years ago. And what I'm really excited about is how successful she has been in training entrepreneurs and having their business grow over the last 14 years. So thank you very much for coming, Christina, and please take it away.
Sure. So just so you guys get to know me just a little bit, as Peggy said, my name is Christina Littrell-Williams. I own and run strategies for small businesses, and it actually transformed from the first company I had created was VA A Go-Go. And I worked with implementation and working with people as a virtual assistant. And as that molded into more marketing, I took a lot of pride in the things that I'd learned and done. And I just decided to open strategies for small businesses. I do a lot of sales funnel success. I have marketing, like I said, history. I work and have been trained by Infusionsoft, which some people will call it still today, Confusionsoft, though I find it very linear. It makes total sense to me. I've been with them since 2010. And they cringe when I call because they know my name. And when I walk the halls, they're like, oh my gosh, she's going to tell us something and stump us. So I love the platform. And I do use other platforms as well as marketing items, but that was my go-to. That was my first love and passion that took me into it. I do design, like I said, successful marketing campaigns. I work with clients hands-on. I work with the clients, with them and their team as well. And we build different processes and procedures moving forward and getting to talk to Peggy now. And like she said, my business has transformed over several years. And we are now really focusing on hands-on with the clients, putting implementation particles, if you will, into place for them to use and processes to use and where they need us. And that's where we came in to support you guys and help you. So Peggy wanted me to go ahead and do a little bit of a small presentation. And I do a marketing and tech Tuesday every other Tuesday. And I'll go from marketing to tech issues. And one of the things that was brought up was communication and processes. And I'd like to talk about that because I'm under the understanding you guys are small business owners. Some of you do different kinds of business ventures. Some of them have a hard product, have an item that they do or a service that they do, and some are in real estate and investing. So process and procedures and working with somebody else on a team is going to cover the gamut here. In your processes and procedures, you want to make sure that your number one top concern is communication. Now, that doesn't matter if you're working with a team that's overseas and you have a VA that's international. If you have a VA that's here in the States, which is like my team is in the States, or you have one of your adult children, teenage children working for you, or a spouse and you're working together. Communication is absolutely number one and top. When you have an idea or you have a task to hand out, what you don't want to do is, you know, the task, you know what your end result is. What you don't want to do is say, hey, I want to put up this website and I want to have them be invited to go here, and then walk away. Or say, here's the content, you even wrote it and you walk away. You didn't say, I want it masculine or feminine. You didn't say, hey, do not use green because it reminds me of vomit. Like, you have to be specific. It can't be what's in your head, because they're going to go off and do what we're given. And that's what you gave them. So they won't take a lot of times the initiative. How can you get your team deeper invested in your business and what your outcome is? Super easy. Make sure you have a team meeting. I say for the first 3 months minimum, every week you're meeting. And there's two different types of meetings to have. One, and some of you guys I'm going to call out and refer to you by name because I like to have conversation. So I'll use you in my example, but don't feel like you have to quickly unmute, okay? So I might be meeting with Cliff. Cliff might be on my team, and he's sitting there. This is a meeting about strategy. We're going to sit down and say, hey, Cliff, we did this week. What felt good to you? Do you need any help with something? What's your feedback? Get them invested, hear them, because a lot of times your team members, even if they're overseas VAs, I have a phenomenal gal that works with me. She handles all my graphics. She goes, what do you want? And I say, brand it out, and I want this feeling. And then I love everything she does. I don't tighten her down because she's learned me, because we've done this. So I will constantly ask for, give me some feedback. Cliff, how did this go? How'd you feel? Maybe it was a task that person didn't like at all, or they were scared to death, or they feel like they needed more training in it. And give them the ability to ask you those questions and be open to it. If they're not set in the same task in 3 months, then they're not the support person for you, at least not for that task. But in 3 months, they should be trained and comfortable, and it should be moving forward. The second meeting is that, okay, here was our scheduled stuff this week. What got done? What didn't get done? How did this get missed? Where did this go? Why was this link sent out? See the different tones in those two meetings? One, you're bringing them in as family. The other one, you're standing over them as a boss. You want to have that balance because you want your team, even if it was somebody like me coming into work on a strategy with you, I'm going to pull this kind of meeting out of you and get your feedback and stuff. And then I'm going to drop down and say, okay, here's our other meeting. You missed this deadline and you missed that deadline. Where can I get this stuff so we can get this finished? But we have to come at it both ways, because I need my team to feel like family. And if you have a family feeling in your team, you're going to have a team that invests in your business and your outcome, because if you make more and your business grows, they make more and they move up the ladder, if you will. They become more important in your business and you have support staff for them. So that's communication is it. I was asked, because I did this in Tech Tuesday today, somebody messaged and said, why do you bring out the spouse and the child? And I said, super easy. Because as entrepreneurs, we live our business 24/7, right? We are thinking about this and where's that, and I got to update this, I got to email this person back, or this funnel's got to be started, and I got to make another $1,000 here, or whatever that is. As entrepreneurs, we're constantly processing. And I learned this from working with my family. I was in animation for 20 years. My sister owned the animation studio that I worked with for like 10 years. And we couldn't even sit down to Thanksgiving and have a Thanksgiving dinner without bringing up storyboards and deadlines and producers and all that. So this is a steadfast rule for me. When you are working with a family member, when you're in the office, I have an outside office from my house. That's business. When you walk in that house, that's family. And you have to shut it off. I have set my days now, as I was letting Doug know. I have a 3-year-old. I've had her since she was 5 months old. It's our youngest granddaughter, and we adopted her. So at 4 o'clock, when I leave my office to go pick her up, I do not come back in my office. I am in the house playing with her, cooking dinner. She's helping me. I am 100% focused in there. And even with my husband, I don't talk about the business unless he asks me. My daughter, my stepdaughter, she does work for me. When we're in that house, we don't talk about the stuff that's there. She'll start to bring stuff up and I'll say outside, and we'll go outside of the house. It's just a good practice because you want to be present and you want to have that husband and wife spouse time where you're not fighting over what color candle is in the background of the video that you're doing. And you want to be able to have dinner and enjoy that. Same with your children. You don't want to be asking them, where is this task? Where is that? How does that go? you need to be mom and child or dad and child, or how that dynamic is. So that's why I brought it up, is past experiences and how I'm living my life now and how it's really easy. It's okay. I can let go of my business at 4 o'clock and be there. Now I have clients all over the world. Do I get messages at 4 a.m.? Yes. Am I up at 4:30 working? Yes. Do I get messages at 10 o'clock at night or at 6 o'clock at night at dinner and there's an absolute emergency? Yes. But because I separate business and family so much, my family's very forgiving when there's an emergency, because they know I will not walk away from the family if it's not dire and this client doesn't need me. And my clients have those boundaries set. They understand it. So that's like putting that together. Processes and procedures. You want to have a project managing platform in place. Something like Asana is perfect. It's awesome. It's easy to use. If you need any help, Peggy can connect you with me. You can go on strategiesforsmallbusinesses.com. There's a question box down at the very bottom. You can ask me a question. I personally answer those. My team might let me know it's there, but it is just me. And it's important when you have those, your deadlines are tracked, your tasks are tracked, those kind of comments, and that meeting that you have, that one topic meeting, can be every other week. But your team meeting, your family meeting, how is it feeling? How did this project go? You know, that is important for every week. And I would say for the first 3 months. So I'm not quite sure how much time I have, Peggy. So if you can just pop in and let me know. I have a couple other points if you'd like me to make them. Okay, perfect. So in Asana, you can have a free account or a purchase account. The purchase account is great if you want to monitor time for tasks. There is the ability to then clock time. So your team member can actually clock the time and have it go, and you can see. You can say, you know, I know that updating a blog, thank you for that. Updating a blog post takes really about 10 minutes. Cruddy internet might take 15, 20. If they're clocking an hour, you need to talk to them about it because you're paying for that time. So it's ways to help you monitor without really being over their shoulder, but you can run a report. I personally use a platform called Teamwork. I love it. It is because I'm jazzed by, if you look at my website, by color and by look and by cleanliness and all this. Asana's black and white, or you could do it, I think you could change it to blue and white, but it's stark. It's just there. There's no pizzazz unless you check off a bunch of things that'll put a little unicorn running across your screen and stuff. But other than that, it's boring and I can't get into it. With Teamwork, I pay a good penny for it, but it monitors tasks, time. It has a team chat. I connect to my phone and all of that. So having something that communicates within that is super important and helps you assign a task and take it off. Don't leave it to email. Don't leave it to Skype. Don't leave it to the stickies on your desk that we all have going around our computers. I got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. Put it in a project managing task. It'll help you bring down your own overwhelm at looking at what needs to be done. So I hope that this is helping you guys. Does anybody have any questions? Let me saw this.
I think Peggy just raised her hand.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
There we go. Yes, I always have questions.
Love it.
So I don't know exactly how to pose this. You separate your family life from the business life. Our concern in life is that children don't learn, and they need to learn before they get to the age of 5 about money and business and how things work. And if you're always talking outside about business, how do they children understand that this is part of life. Having a business and running a business is part of life. And then all about the money. How are they learning about money?
So right at this minute, my stepdaughter has moved in to our house with 4 children. So we
Ooh.
have 5 of them living in 1 bedroom until we can get their house moved onto our property. I live in rural Texas on a farm. California girl moved. I just did the cows before we got on the call. Yes. So we're moving her onto our property in their own house, but right now they're all in our house. And I'm listening to her son saying, "Oh, well, can you get me this? It's only $20. Can you get this? It's this." And her daughter is turning around saying this. And I'm like, okay, Mimi doesn't work like that. Okay. I asked you to take out the trash and you griped at me. So now to ask me about that $20 again, like we work it out. And for like Rossi, who's 3, and we're sitting there, she has a piggy bank. And so when she helps with dinner and stuff like that, it's like, okay, come help. Mama's working in the kitchen. And we utilize those works because cooking dinner, planning dinner, cleaning dishes, that is work. It's just housework and family work. And so she'll get a little bit of a reward. One of the things that's different for me is I don't believe that the children have to be paid for everything they do.
Mm-mm.
I don't believe that they have to, their responsibility is, you are participating with us. So as far as teaching them about business, my daughter, who is now 30, and my son, who's 27, they are better at their finances than I am. And basically it's because of my failures in finances that I didn't hide from them, using a credit card and I shouldn't have, and things like that. They're amazing. And they've got amazing careers and jobs, and teaching them in high school how to write a check, how to work their own bank account. I had each child had their own bank account that I was on. And then they had to put money in because they were getting a job, and they had to put 10% into a savings. And then this is what they got to use. And so we waited until they were older than the little kids, but they knew the value of money growing up, because I just don't go buy something to buy something. It's not you just want this, you get it. So I don't know if that helps Peggy answer that, but that's how I worked in as far as handling finances and money.
So could I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I talk to people in grocery stores when their kids say, I want that. And the parents usually say, and that, by the way, just like the child is saying, it's only $20. That is the invitation to have the money conversation. And how we look at it is, well, if you want that, that's only $20. You figure out how to earn the $20. When we get home, let's sit down and talk about ways you could earn $20 so you could buy that. The parents who have done this in the past have told me by the time they earn that $20, they have learned the value of work, the value of money, and they no longer want that, whatever that was. It's okay if you bought it, but they're not going to spend their money on it. So one lesson they've just learned what it takes to earn the money and how long it takes, and they have a whole new appreciation. Right. And we know that by the age of 5, if children don't understand money, you pretty much lost them. You kids to church right away and teach them religion, but why don't we do that with money and all the other things that are important in life?
I agree. I worked at a junior high for 4 years in between children. And one of the classes that I kept outlining, I worked for LA Unified, was why do we not have a class where they come in, pick out of a bowl, that's their career, here's what their salary is, here's where their house is, here's how much their rent is, here's what their bills are, and then they get a bonus or they get a flat on their like life, the game, right? But have it a semester of class where they have to, and use it as economics, because the economics class I took in high school did nothing for me to live outside. It was, so we have a little bit, I agree with you on that. My grandson will tell you he does have that $20, but his mom won't let him spend it. And so he's smart. He's at that teenage, that smart mouse. But one thing that my neighbor just told me, they earned points. So after you got this many points, you could go to the store and get what you were asking. The grandpa did this for them. But if you got a disciplinary note at school, you lost points. So it made them responsible not only for their behavior, but raking up leaves and washing the car and all of that, but figured in their attitudes and behavior, which I really liked that a lot, because it's the same thing. You smart off to your boss. Like if you're working at Jack in the Box and you smart off, you lose your job, you ain't got an income anymore. Like, you know what I mean? It like teaches them they had, and so I liked that approach. We just had that conversation last week. So putting all of this into place, I think it's, what is it, kismet?
That's it. Thank you. Jonna.
Thank you. Christina, I want to circle back to when you talked about processes and communication being so important. Do you have a format that you use, or so whether it's an investor coming into our network for the first time, or whether it's a new employee at your company, they're kind of coming in midstream, right? It's like opening a book in the middle. And I think that this communication, you can save yourself as an organization a lot of time by taking a little bit of time adding that communication to that. So do you have a format? Can you expound on that a little bit? Give us a little more insights?
Sure. So first, one of the things you reminded me of that I did not mention is having, so if you have multiple team members, right? And then and I wouldn't say the investors, because it would be who's running the company and then the investors. So really it would be the expectation. So it'd be the team up here but creating process documents. So I'm going to go to something simple. So let's say I have a VA that's going to check my email and give me these messages and do this and this, right? We're talking about it, and in the communication, I'm telling him exactly what my expectations are. I want my inbox empty every day. I want the things that I need to be answered, tagged, Christina needs to respond to. If it's sales and junk mail, throw it away. And here's the list of junk mail. Like I have to relay all that information. And it's in our meeting, but I also have that jogged down because it's what I want. I don't have a process doc for that. As they get going, they're going to create their own process. I go in at 8 o'clock. I do this, that. I come back at 10 o'clock. I want them to create a process doc of the process they go through to complete that task to achieve my intended result. My key thing is you always tell a support person, even an investor in your group, what your intended result is for them coming or them working with you, because you might have one, like getting to the soda shop on the corner. You might come out of your street, turn right, go down 2 and go left. But Cliff may come out your street, go left and go down 5 blocks. Yours might be a little shorter. His might be a little longer, but he gets to go by this, and drop off the mail. Nobody's wrong. You both got to the intended results and his process. So you always want to label. And so when you're talking to them and you're bringing in your team member, the first part of communication of any task is what is your intended result for the task. An Excel sheet. I want an Excel sheet that will read out this drop down number after we've subtracted this, and added in this. Well, a good VA in Excel can generate that for you, and then you can play. But if you would have said, on column A, put this, and on this, do and make sure it adds here, and you're giving them, they're trying to follow every word. But your intended result, they can give that to you. Does that make sense?
It does.
So to me, there's no form that you fill out for that conversation. It's more being clear on what you want and if they need help to get to that. And it's your want.
Yeah, that's called a process.
Right. But they don't necessarily need the process. They need the intended result. A lot of times they'll have a process. If you asked me to come work for you and you needed to put a campaign together in Infusionsoft and you wanted, I would say, what's your intended result?
Sure.
You know,
When
and
you hire somebody like a VA, they have no idea. You can't ask them to think because they don't understand what the process is. They might
not always
understand
true.
well,
Not always true. A lot of them are trained. And I worked with a company in the Philippines for a long time as far as on an outside doing something else. They're trained to not say anything. They're trained, like I took my person from this company and I employ her 100% and I pay her exactly what I paid that company, which was, you know, if I'm paying her like 5 times what she would normally get paid. But if I was going to pay that company to have her, why can't I pay her that? You know, I was already out that money. But when you're having them invest in your company, they will start thinking. They will start, and you bring that out of them and you say, I want an Excel sheet that does this and compares this and this on Google Sheets. Do you know how to do that? If they say yes, great. Here's the data. Let me see it when you're done. I promise you. Now they are, like I said, there's a lot of them that are trained that are like, nope, you have to tell me every step. It's not true. You can tell them intended result. If they don't know, if they can't think to the intended result, they can't do that task. You should not have to train every VA on every task.
Thank you.
And I can talk to you more privately about different companies and I'll give you some insight.
Thank you. Shauna, other questions, thoughts?
No, that was helpful. It actually kind of flipped a switch or a perspective for me. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And just going back to your comment, Peggy, there's like if I put a VA into Infusionsoft from another kind that's internet, unless they specialize in Infusionsoft, they're not going to know. I do have to train them, but I always tell them my intended result is to get this, and here's how I go about it. And I do train them in programs like that. Google Docs, reports I need, handling my inbox. I do not have to train them in that stuff.
Okay. Oh, I have to train them in that. Our emails are very different than most people's emails. So
I bet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you guys, so there's two things I'll share with you that I just launched. And I was telling Peggy, and that's what prompted her to say, come. I just finished a 5-day business challenge, if you will. It's called the Have, Need, Do. And it basically is getting you guys organized as to what you have in your business, asset-wise, platform-wise, things that you might not even think are an asset, to what you need. And that's refining your list, not what I say you have to have. I am not one that's a guru that says you have to have this and you have to have this. You have to, no, because it has to fit your style and your persona. And then do, now you're going to take action. I'm all about action taking and getting stuff done. And we'll go through that. If you're interested in it, let me know. I have the replays. I'm pretty sure we can set you up. It's going to be a little spotty, but it's got working documents and all of that in it. And it was a free challenge. It just came in right before we had the podcast. So I told her I would offer that. And then out of that, I just launched my Make It Happen Academy, which is going to be a monthly marketing kind of training that it could be for you, your team member, whoever it is. And each month we'll do one topic. So we'll start with, for example, email marketing. And when we go into email marketing, I'll explain all the little buzzwords that people use, everything that's going on, what different platforms are, which ones are free, which ones you pay for. And then we can decipher together what you need. You can ask questions. There's always there will be a training at the beginning of the week, a Q&A on a Thursday. Then the second week, we're going to lock into a free one so that we can start playing and brand it. Let's ask me questions. Let's get it done, touch it, move it. Then the third week, we'll talk about emails, what are best practices for your marketing emails, call to actions in your emails, and how you integrate your branding into that, but not overload it, and the difference between including graphics, not including graphics, spam bots, all of those things. Then the fourth week, you actually write an email and send it as a broadcast from there, and I get a copy of it, and I'll go through your email and get back to you and let you know how you achieve that, how it looked, how it went, what things I might suggest. And each week there's that Q&A. And then the following month we'll start topic 2. But if you come to the Q&A, you could still ask questions about the first month, and it just will keep building like that. And you keep access to all of the trainings as long as you're a member. And so it's just something that I have a passion for teaching and training, and you as an entrepreneur touching something and then handing it to a VA or doing it yourself because you don't have a team yet, but not to be scared of it and not to be overwhelmed and go, oh, I can do this. I don't need it right now, but I can do it. Or I need to do this right now. I need to implement this. That's what it's there for. And then I think I gave Peggy all of the links, so you guys will have that information.
Thank you. It's great. So does anyone have any questions? So this is it's going to be a once a week course throughout the year. Is that correct?
Correct. So one topic a month,
Membership.
every week there'll be a lesson for that month and a Q&A for that month. Then the next month we'll switch topics.
Right. And that'll be ongoing throughout the year.
Yes.
And it's a membership. And it's a membership. Okay, great. That's great. I'll find those links and send them out to everyone.
Got it.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts about how to improve your business and make it grow? Which is what, for those who didn't get here early, before we started recording, when I introduced Christina, as she shows you how to grow your business in a more efficient way than most of us usually do. And she's been in the business for about 14 years.
Just 14. You're just amazing.
Thank you. It's very nice. Cliff.
So at one point, does it make sense to hire a VA?
At what point? One, when you're working on tasks that a VA could support you in, and you're spending too much time doing that task. So let's say it's going through your email and cleaning it up. It's taking you 4 hours a day or 3 hours, because that inbox is crazy, right? And you could pay a VA $5 to $7 an hour to clean that. So it costs you $20, but you are not present for 4 hours, and your rate is $100 an hour. If you look at what you're making, that right there is when you start going, I could be doing things, increasing my revenue if I didn't have to sit here and do this job. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You really look at the money thing. And like I said, if it's an international VA, you can do $5 to $7 an hour, and you can train them into what you like. You want your intended results met. You want it easier than harder, and you test it out. I mean, you're never signed to a year. Don't ever sign a contract with a VA company that requires you to stay so many months. That's not thing. And there are US based VAs. You're looking at 25 to, depending on what their expertise are, could be 75 an hour. So, you want to see where you're at.
Yeah, most of the local ones are now, or US local, are at $25 to $35 an hour.
Yep.
Is that it? Tina?
Tina has her hand up.
Yeah.
I wanted to say this has been really good. Thank you very much. But what I wanted to ask was, when vetting a VA, what should we be looking for?
Oh, good question. Good question. I sit back and it really is going to be different for each of you entrepreneurs, right? Because each of you will have different needs. But when you're looking for a VA, I do ask for a resume. Even if they work for a company and you're hiring them through a company, I want a resume. I want to do an interview, and I want an interview of at least 3 of their VAs. Then I want to sit back and I have exactly what tasks. So I want to make sure that they know Gmail or they know Outlook or whatever that is, that they can run reports. You know, do they know Excel? I'm going to go with Excel a lot because of investing and money and things like that. And even for our own business bottom line, you know, if you use Active Campaign or MailChimp or something, do they have any expertise or experience in it? Just experience. So you really want to write down, you want to have your own list. These are the things I want them to be able to do, or I need help with.
Mhm.
And then at that point, you're going to start doing. So when you're vetting them, what times are they available? And what is your recourse if they don't show up? Okay, so I'm going to say this again. I have a VA. I love her to death, and she's in the Philippines. But there are times she goes MIA. She takes off to the province, and they don't have internet. But it's like, just tell me before you go. I mean, we've been doing this long enough. Tell me before you go so I can prepare. She still doesn't. You know, it's a fear factor of getting in trouble. So telling them upfront, honesty, and if you're not going to be there, I need to know the day before. You know, so you know, like, you have to really set down the rules because you're hiring this person, they're there to help you. So you want to be clear at your tasks. You want to have a resume to read. You want to be able to interview more than one person. And then you go back just like hiring anybody out here that was coming into your house to work for you. You should have no less expectation, except you might have to handhold a little bit, but there's still a support staff for you.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina. David.
Yes, hi. Hi, Peggy.
Hi,
I had a question in reference to your system. How do you set up your system where you know your VA is actually doing their work? How do you do that to verify that job is being done? And then your hiring process, specifically, like I'm in real estate looking for off-market properties, things like that. What questions do you ask to make sure they qualify for that position? Thank you.
Great. So as far as knowing that they're doing the job that they're asked, that's where your project management platform comes in. So if you're looking for reports to be pulled, I'm going to make up stuff because I don't know exactly what is entailed. So forgive me if it's not spot on, but you want a report pulled of all the available properties in this area of Phoenix, Arizona, right? That would be your task in your project manager. You have a due date. That's the other thing. Never assign a task without giving a due date. If you do that, then it's whenever they want to get it done. Again, that goes back to communication and your expectations. Your expectation is this to be done in a Google sheet, shared with me, completed, and I want the link by next Wednesday. And then if your project manager, you can even ask them, I want you to keep a time card on a Google sheet and tell me how long it's taking you for each process, because that will help me budget to give you more. Like, you know, you want to make it that it benefits them as well. Because it does. If they're doing efficient work, you want to give them more work and they're going to make more money as well. So, but I use Google Sheets a lot, but having a project managing platform like Asana, like Teamwork, something where they're tracking their time is what will help you with how much you have to pay them, and it's getting done, and assign due dates. If they're not making it by the due dates, then they're not then you let go of the VA and you find somebody else.
Thank you, David. Cliff?
So I have been told in the past that it's better whenever I hire a VA to pay them a flat rate based on the task with a deadline rather than paying them an hourly rate so that they can't draw it out. There's no incentive for them to draw it out. What is your thought and opinion on this?
I kind of go both ways because I have quit trying to bill hourly because I can do things super fast. And then that's not fair to me on the other side, right? So I have moved, excuse me, to flat rate billing. It's just easier. Clients will always say, well, how long is that going to take you? And I'll say, I'll get it done by the due date because technically it's not their business. This is how much that project costs. For VAs overseas, it's super hard to do that because they don't have snap internet like we do. So though it may take us 10 minutes to download a video, it will take them an hour, but during that hour, I don't expect them to be sitting there going like this and me paying for an hour download. I have 3 things to get done. Now, sometimes their internet won't support that, but they're $5 for the hour to download versus me having to do that, then put it in Dropbox, then send the link, and then make sure they get it and all that. I've just spent 30 minutes of my time at 100. So it cost me $50 and it cost me $5 if I had them sit for an hour downloading it. So it really goes back and forth. People will say that if you find a VA that you build that relationship with, and like goes back to my conversation, about how long a task takes. And you could say, I usually do this in about an hour. And you could go ahead and set that intention in there. But holding them to like, here's a task and I'll pay you $20 for it, it's kind of hard pressed when I'm dealing with an international VA.
Okay. Oh, David's back with another question. How wonderful. Thank you, David.
Yeah, so I'm just curious on the work ethic of the overseas, people that you use. You mentioned you have one right now. She kind of goes in and out of doing things for you. So I'm just curious. And then what do you do as far as finding the right one that makes sense for you as far as questions asked and what their work ethic is?
Right. So going back in that interview process and things like that, when I hired this one gal, I actually hired her for a client to be a VA for this client. And the client, she was a nightmare. She was like I wanted to vomit every day. She was so stress causing to me. And though I was billing her several thousands of dollars a month, it wasn't worth it. And the company that the VA worked for, her name is Nori. The company that Nori was working for, she missed work one day because her son's father got into a car accident, got hit by a car just on his leg. It wasn't huge, but she had to go take care of her son and she didn't show up for work. They fired her. She cried. I cried. Luckily, she memorized my email address and she reached back and apologized profusely. And I just said, can you set up at home? Can you get at a computer? Can you get reliable internet? And will you have access to all the platforms you have at that other company? And she said, absolutely. And she calls me Ate. Ate means sister in Tagalog. She goes, yes, I can. She did it that next week. She got all set up. She was going to somebody else's house who had a little workshop thing out of his home, and she was doing it and she did it. I trust her with everything. I know when the kids are out of school and I know when they're going to go on vacation. So, and her mom did have a huge health thing. She immediately contacted me and told me that her mom was in the hospital. She's working from the hospital. I'm working from ICU with my father-in-law. So we were working at the same time doing that. So she shows up. It's just, I can tell when she's going to go on a family vacation. She doesn't tell me. So we're still working on that, but I trust her with my life. I mean, she has access to, she can log into my computer right now if she wanted to. So it's a relationship we have built for 7 years, 8 years. And we just if I said my intended result, she jumped on it and she did it. And we built this relationship, and she's vested in my company. And so as you build that relationship, they will too, even if they're international. If you have somebody independent outside of a company, they tend to get a little more vested because they are more reliant, I guess, if I could put it that way, on the income. But really, it's really going back through what Tina had asked. How do you vet them out? And it's really asking the questions, looking at the resume. If you're doing it from a company, ask them straight out. What's their show up record? Have you had any problems in the past? That company should stand behind you and behind them. If you hire somebody and that person's not working out, you bombard that company and say, this is bullcrap. This person did this, and they have to scramble to get you a VA because they're making an overhead on what you're paying that person, and they don't want to lose you. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It does. That's fantastic. I have a couple follow-up questions with that. I kind of missed part of this, and I do apologize. You mentioned age, school. So I'm just curious what age of VAs you use, and as you mentioned, finding the right contact for you. What is the best person for maybe your task, that specific industry, I guess.
Got it. So Peggy might have a referral for you guys for a VA company that has some training in it. I will work with her on that too, to make sure. As far as school and all of that, I think we were popping in and out of personal life and what's going on. I have school age kids here that have moved into my home. I don't hire school age kids to VA for me unless it's a simple data entry task that they're doing right here. Like it would be my own family member doing a task for me that I'm training them on. But outside of my house, I wouldn't hire a teenage person unless it's dropping off flyers, like the old days, like we used to have them go door to door and deliver flyers or something. But yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Right. So what age is primarily what you're looking for? And then what is their background as far as experience, in doing so as well?
Well, if you're going to go through a company, Peggy and I both know a couple different VA companies where you can sit back and you can vet them out through that level. This is what I need help with. Do you have any VAs that specialize in A, B, and C? I would like to see resumes for the three of them. I would like to interview all three of them. Like you remember, you're hiring a person just like you would go to a temp agency, just like you would go to a hiring agency here in the States. Don't let yourself not have those same expectations hiring an outside VA in an international company. You go to that company and you put down, these are my expectations. I want them to do this. I want to see resumes. I want to interview. And then you're going to get a feel. They're going to be usually 25 all the way up into their 30s, maybe 40s, like in that age range in there. But basically I go on reputation with the company and I make the company stand by the person they're recommending to me for my tasks that I need. But I'm very clear on the tasks that I need. That goes back to my very beginning, is being very clear and communicate exactly what your expectations are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have there's a question. When you're interviewing someone and you ask them a specific question about, I'll just make up Excel. They say, yes, they can, but they don't know how to use it. How can you tell when somebody actually has the experience that you need?
Yes. If you're going back through the company, their resumes should have been checked through that company, right?
Right. So on an individual basis, because a company will always find somebody that's the right person.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're looking, I know there's a couple online places you can go and look for yourself and hire somebody, you can have a VA internationally, even statewide, that's remote, like me to you guys, who can lie through their teeth on their resume for sure to get the job, just like anybody walking into any business here. Oh, sure. I've worked at a restaurant before. I've done the grill before. I've been a short order cook. Is that what it's called? And yet they're not getting anything done back there because they don't know what to do first and how to do it and whatever. They obviously lied. What would you do? Get rid of them. Exactly. Your expectations should be no different. That's my, I mean, yes, they may not be from the United States. They may not have the same. You respect their culture. You, like, going back to my VA, she knows I'm Christian. She very quietly, we were having a conversation and she said, is it okay that I'm Islamic? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she goes, you're okay? I said, yeah. Can you teach me? Can you teach me about part of your culture and what you guys do? And she goes, can you teach me? And I'm like, what better world and what better way to bring together? So I say, you know, I'm praying for you, or if something's happening, she's writing in Tagalog back to me a prayer. And so it's that respect that you have and you build, just like anybody on the street that comes and works for you. You want to have that same relationship.
Thank
And
you.
they're going to lie, they will lie to you, just like anybody here will, to get a job. And if they don't work out, next.
Exactly. Cliff, we're on our last question, or close to. We still have
just to comment on that. You know, in interview process, I can always provide someone a small test to take. And, you know, if it's an important task, I can give them a test to see if they're able to complete it as part of the interview process. But I guess my question is, how would I train someone to respond to my emails? Because in my mind, I think no one can respond to my emails the same way I do. So how do I train someone to do that?
Carefully.
I have to say that I am against that. So I have VAs that I work with that I've trained to help with social media and emails for clients, but their job is to really monitor the Facebook group. And if Cliff posted a question, hey, what's Razzle Dazzle, blah, 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 blah. Well, this VA isn't going to know how to answer it in that client's voice. They take a screenshot of it, send it to the client. So the client is going through an one email that has post, and does the reply and says, okay, this one say this one say this. So it's their words, but they're not having to take the time. So the email thing I've put together where the client will get one email or maybe 3, morning, afternoon, and night, that has email things that you can't answer. It's all on one document. You don't get lost in your inbox. You don't get to go see it. You can write your reply and they can post it.
That's a great tip. I never knew that. I never would have thought of that. That's great.
I don't trust it because there's too many business things they can't make the decision on. They don't have. Now I do have a client that I have autonomy. Like I go in there and I run the support thing and I do it, and I'll message him and say, oh, by the way, so-and-so wanted this and that. So I gave him a deal and I charged him this much and I'm doing this and they're getting that. Okay. And he's like, okay. Like he just but we've worked together for 11 years now. And he trusts me with everything. I have another client I've worked with for about the same amount of time, and I have to check still to this day on everything I do. But the other one is like, he basically just tells me, tell me where to show up. You know, I traveled to all these live events with him, and he would tell everybody from the front of the stage, okay, Christina's in the back. She runs the show. So if you want to talk any business, go talk to her. And he lets me go. But he knows that my first thing is him. So perfect.
And I, you know, as you know, we're training our operations manager, and she does a lot of the emails. And when she has a question, she doesn't know what to do. She puts hers and my name on the email. And then the two of us take time each
Mhm.
week to go over several emails and get those questions answered. She just takes copious notes and like that. So yeah, it takes time. I mean, we've been doing this for 6 months, and I think that there will always be stuff that comes up. There's just stuff that comes up, and she only
Now with-
handles operations. She doesn't handle any of the sales part.
Now, with her position as operations manager, I would start having her work on different process documents of
Oh, yeah,
things
she
she
is.
goes through, and have that, because then when that person is done and she is like in this position, she doesn't have time for all that other stuff. You've got a manual to hand to the next person coming down, and then she just comes in and picks up the notes. So good for you, Peggy, for having that together.
Thank you. Yeah, processes are everything. And we miss them. And I've been told, well, part of the problem for me is I'm an imaginative person and I'm creative, and doing that other is paperwork. And it's like, yeah, somebody else can figure that out. And I just figure everybody could figure it out. And that's wrong. So, Jenny.
I just want to say I had a very good experience with the VA, and she has from Manila, and she reached out to me, and has a real estate background, so it's even easier.
Yes.
So it's just that she was super fast, and I didn't have a lot of work for her. She's already got 2 clients, and the second thing is that I know someone who actually runs a VA agency. His name is Frank Pantalano.
Right.
I know,
So-
Frank.
You know Frank? Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And that this was interesting how she found me, and I just haven't got her enough work. But one of the other things is to test them by giving, define what you're looking for in the business, what you want the expectations for the VA to do, and give them mini tests to vet them.
Yes. And you know, Jenny,
And you can do it either yourself or go out to the internet and just short test to see to ascertain their skills, so you don't waste too much time in the interviewing process. Hope this helps.
also Jenny, you might have like this person, and congratulations on a success. I mean, there's a lot of successful relationships with Manila VAs. I love them. But and you might be able to ask that person, who does she know that has the same skills as her? And you might be able to help some of your real estate investing kind of friends as well. And it might only be 2 hours for this person and 2 hours for that person and 2 hours. Now they've got a 6-hour day.
Actually, she came to me and she already had clients. But I have put her on pause because one day I plan to go and visit the Philippines, and I also speak a little bit of Tagalog, so not really much, just that helps to start a conversation.
Yes, I've spent 3 weeks in the Philippines when I was in animation, because one of our studios was over there. I was in Manila. So it's great.
Wonderful.
It's great.
Well, any other questions? Because we are at the top of the hour. So thank you very much, Christina, for coming on the show and sharing your great information. I'm sure your brain's just so full of filing cabinets and letters and Infusionsoft and so many other things. So thank you so very much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.